Welcome to the Enterpriser Podcast, the hub for Atlantic Canadian entrepreneurs. Today we are joined all the way from Montreal, I believe, by Rivers Corbett. And I can't imagine many people in the Atlantic region who are involved in entrepreneurship that wouldn't know the name Rivers Corbett. Rivers is the founder of Cheftorial, which I've known as the Chef Group for many years, but recently rebranded. He was the entrepreneur in residence at Opportunities New Brunswick, the same at the University of New Brunswick, and now Mount Allison's first entrepreneur in residence. Host Canada podcast, Startup Canada champion, Entrepreneur of the Year, all kinds of stuff like that. He's been inspiring me since 2016 when we met. So thank you very much, Rivers, for coming on the show today. I sincerely appreciate it.
Hey, Liam, great to be here. And thanks. That's all I can say. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. We talked about a week ago. And you had mentioned a couple of projects in the academia space. So I guess we'll start with that. So what's up? What's new with Rivers? What's going on in the academia space?
Yeah, well, it's I'm hesitant because I just don't know where to start with it. But here's what I can tell you. What I love is what's happening around the universities in Atlantic Canada who I've had an opportunity to connect with, like UNB, Mount A, Acadia actually has a great program they've set up that's it actually includes Mount A, Bishops, St. FX, and Acadia, and they run a program called The Path, which is all about an accelerator specifically for entrepreneurs. So the conversation, the inclusion of entrepreneurship in academia is very much alive and well throughout the region. Interesting is that it still hasn't hit into I'll call it a degree and to multiple credits. But man, oh man, it's come a long way from typing and accounting courses that used to be what it was all about before, but not anymore, man. It's alive and well.
Yeah. I've always thought that because I remember when I was going to school, the closest thing you really could get to entrepreneurship was you'd get your business degree and then go for an MBA. But
yep.
I didn't get an MBA, but I did business in university, and yeah, that doesn't even kind of prepare you for
no, sir.
for entrepreneurship, not even in the least. And so I remember, when I first started really bearing myself in entrepreneurship, years back, I realized that their schools were starting to do stuff a little bit. So let's say in the past 5 or 6 years, what's the evolution look like? How are things changing for folks who want to get involved in entrepreneurship, but they still want to stay on the academic train? They don't want to, do the whole try and fail 400 times like I did.
Yeah, it's what's happening is a couple of things. One is that the universities that I just mentioned are actually, inclusive of many faculties. It isn't just business now. It really is about innovation. It's about entrepreneurship, not necessarily being an entrepreneur. But ultimately, what I do love about it, it's about training people to be independent for their own well-being from a commerce perspective and a financial perspective going into the future, and just giving them the tools to be able to do that. So that's the first thing. It really is invasive across the entire all faculties. And I'm seeing biology students, I'm seeing fine arts students, of course, commerce students, which is fantastic. I remember when I was at UNB, the interesting enough, the entrepreneurship department, if you want to call it, led by Dr. Shukla, is located in the engineering school. And, so that's what I'm seeing. The other thing that I'm seeing is, a lot of the pitch competitions, the accelerator programs, the guest speakers, and so on is all very, very, very prevalent amongst I mean, those are the schools that I've been involved with, but I got to tell you, from all the schools that are out there, there's an element of entrepreneurship that's happening, and that is teaching people that they can fish, not only have to rely on other people fishing for them, i.e. a job, but they are teaching people how to fish for themselves too. And look, there's nothing wrong. I want the audience to know there's nothing wrong with getting a job, but entrepreneurship is a career. It's a very valuable career. I consider entrepreneurship to be, one of the most important careers that society can ever embrace. And so I'm just ecstatic that those conversations are happening and the programs are in place to be able to support them. Always can get better, but ultimately that's where it's at right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I always viewed entrepreneurship as, the spirit of entrepreneurship. I think, in my personal experience, is that entrepreneurship, whether you own your own business or not, having that entrepreneurial spirit is incredibly important, whether you're going to work for another corporation, no matter what you're doing. Having that spirit, that self-starting spirit, is so helpful to you. But one thing I was wondering, and I've wondered this for a while, do you think that the way that the universities, the schools are starting to develop programs, much better programs than they've had for many years, do you think that's going to start spilling over into the professional industries as well? Because I have a couple of friends. One of them's a dentist, for instance, and he spent a lot of money at school. He learned everything there is to know about being a dentist, but he knows absolutely nothing about owning a business at all, and he's expected to go out in the world and do that. So do you think it's going to start spilling over into that as well, where it's sort of like, whether you're in the professional industry, no matter what industry you're in, you need to learn these skills of the modern entrepreneur?
Yeah, boy, that's a great question, and I don't have an answer for it definitively. Excuse me, except to say that yes, I think it will happen. I think it will happen out of necessity. I think it'll come out of demand from the professionals that are involved with those membership-based associations and so on. Professional associations, dentists. I mean, massage therapists. Those are one grouping that I go in. Like, nobody teaches them about how to do that. Barbers. Nobody teaches them how to ultimately have a business. Cosmetology. There's all kinds of trades that we can talk about that the business conversation isn't happening. And so, do I have hope that it's going to happen? Yes. I'll tell you where there's an opportunity for business coaches to really get into those organizations and say, let me start to work with your students that are coming out of the schools and to help them be successful in starting and growing their own business with the trade that you're teaching them. So that's really where I think the conversation is going to happen, because in the organizations themselves, the community colleges, the professional, the cosmetology. I could get back cosmetology, but there's a wonderful one right in Fredericton. They don't have people like that on faculty. And so therefore the conversation isn't happening in that regard. It'll really happen when the outsider comes in and says, let me start to play in a non-intrusive way, so that the value is there. Because, I mean, ultimately it's about success. If students have success, the institutions will continue to have success because people will want to enroll again and again and again. And so yeah, I think it'll naturally happen, but it's going to take a while, unfortunately, but an opportunity for guys like you and me.
Great, yeah. Okay, cool. So I want to switch gears and talk a little bit more about you. I've noticed that you've always been someone who's had, I guess the best way to say it is you always had a lot of projects going on at the same time. I don't mean like a couple of side hustles here and there. It always seems to be like a cohesive, sort of interconnected, yet still independent group of projects that are sort of in your orbit. So tell me about the other. Like, I know that you're doing business coaching. I was actually reading one of your books last night.
Cool.
Tell me a little bit more about what's happening in that space. And for my own personal information, how do you manage all that? How do you manage it all together?
Well, the funny thing is, ladies and gentlemen, is that I just had Liam on in a previous podcast of mine with Canada's podcast, and I was asking him how he keeps himself
Yeah.
organized. so, so I love that this question comes around. Well, the first one is that I have not always practiced what I should be, which I preached, and have chased squirrels many a time because it's just that's the number one curse of the entrepreneur, in my opinion. There's always a shiny light somewhere that is just attractive, whether or not it's immediate and its value back to you or later on. There's just it's part of our spirit to chase those shiny lights, and I've been bit many times because I have not stayed in my lane. Until but the last 4 or 5 years, I've just decided to buckle down. I live in 2 lanes. Primarily, they're industry lanes, so that it still affords me the luxury of doing many things, but they come across, as you were mentioning, complementary services or products versus just like, what the heck is that one doing in there? And so I tell, I advertise myself as a player coach. I started a chef talent agency over 20 some odd years ago when the Food Network was coming out, and built that agency to bring opportunities to talented men and women in the culinary space, chefs and cooks, who really had great talents but didn't really know how to really bring together additional revenue for side revenue, for part-time revenue for them. And so we built an amazing business over 20 plus years. In doing that, the Sobeys organization was a fantastic client of ours. We did thousands upon thousands of cooking classes for them, as an example. COVID came along, and Sobeys closed that program down. We pivoted and have been doing virtual ever since. And so we're an virtual culinary experiences events company that also trains chefs and cooks how to create and build their own side hustle businesses. And all because of COVID. You were mentioned earlier in our conversation about COVID being a great blessing. It really has for that business also, even though, we technically had to start from scratch again. But we've got some cool momentum going on in that arena of culinary experiences, and helping chefs and cooks build lifestyles that they can grow back in. So if a COVID ever happens again, they're already trained how to do their own thing. They don't have to be just relegated to this wait and see and the trauma associated with a thing called COVID. And then the other part is I serve entrepreneurs, helping them to start and to grow successful businesses. You mentioned about academia. I've just been blessed to kind of hang out in that space and get gigs in that space that allow me to, one, have a pretty cool title. I love the name Entrepreneur in Residence. I don't know why it connects with me, but it does. And serve entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs. One of the cool things I love about Mount Allison right now in that space is we're talking about not only engaging young students, but also alumni who may be at a point in their career that say, I don't want to work for anybody else. I'm retired, whatever it is. And so, the servitude of the beginner young entrepreneur has really been a space that I love to play in, whether it's coaching somebody, whether it's being an entrepreneur in residence, or whether it's doing events. That's the lane that I've chosen. And how do I keep organized? I'm very diligent, and one, being respectful of that. Now, if it doesn't fill any of those 2 lanes, I just don't play in the space, as attractive as it might be playing in another lane. But the other thing is that I'm every day there's a list. And what are you doing today to move it forward? And I check it off, and I'm very diligent with keeping lists on what I need to go forward. Then you add into, it may not be sexy, but just regular activity that consistently keeps your business moving forward. So I just trained myself to be consistent with the little stuff, while also keeping my eye on the big picture of where I want to go. And it's why I'm excited about what you're doing, because it's just, see, I can chase that squirrel, with what you're doing with your organization, but still stay in the lane. And that's so that's my answer to the question. It may not be perfect, but it works for me.
No, that's great. That's great. This just popped into my head. So, when did you? What was your first entrepreneurial experience? Like, when did you get involved in entrepreneurship? How old were you when you got involved in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I love asking that question. I really do because so I'm going to tell you, I'm a big fan of network marketing.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of network marketing. I just love the opportunity it gives for people to have a lifestyle that can really be one that they can control. Now, look, thousands are never successful in network marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But my answer is that how did I get started? I got into a network marketing organization and just fascinated with how people were building their own little nest egg, even if it was just to pay for a car payment. They had the opportunity to do it, learn about customer service, learn about distribution, learn about finances, learn about innovation and differentiation, because in the network marketing industry, everybody's taught to do it the exact same way. Well, that's not how business works. To be successful, in my opinion, it's the fact is that you've got to sometimes zag while everybody else is zigging. And so yeah, I got involved with a skin company called New Skin. It wasn't Amway, it was New Skin, and got it up to about $1,000 a month, and then went off and chased another industry one, and then my brother and I got involved with Agile Enterprises. We ended up being number 2 in the country at its height, but anyway, that taught me about entrepreneurship, but it also taught me that still somebody else was in control.
Mm-hmm.
So there still was a C-suite that was in control of moving that company, that organization forward, and I was at the mercy of their decisions all the time. And they started to make decisions that weren't beneficial for my growth as an entrepreneur. So that's when I decided to dive into to doing my own thing, and then the chef business started. And actually, it was called Rent a Chef before it was called the Chef Group.
Oh, really?
So it's yep. So yeah, that was the first entry into entrepreneurship. Besides the paper route, of course. Had the paper route many years ago.
yeah. I've gone down the road of network marketing before too, and you're absolutely right. Like, the opportunities are actually really cool, and I was always fascinated with how network marketing companies worked. But at the end of the day, the upper echelon, the owners of the company, were always going to make the decisions that benefited them more than the people selling the product, and so it never really was going to get as good as I wanted it to be,
No, it really wasn't. I saw too many people that the compensation plan would change, of course. And anyway, but that's how it all started.
Cool. So what would, if you had the opportunity to tell yourself something that you've learned throughout the year? So what would you tell yourself, 20 plus years ago, getting involved in network marketing? What's the most important thing you've learned?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, and it really comes back to, I wish I had stuck it out longer with some things that I was doing. I might have gave up just a little bit too early because it got a little tough, and there was something else that was sexier that came along, and I could chase that shiny star. And in the beginning, it's all the honeymoon. You know it, brother, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the honeymoon stage is the best time in the relationship, right? And so, that one over there, they're calling me. So I wish I just stuck it out longer than what I did, and I think I might have seen some different successes, but also, you know what? I'm also a believer I wouldn't be where I am right now, having the opportunity to influence people and to hang out with you and to build my own business the way it is right now. And you can't look in the rearview mirror. You really can't. It's 100%. Easy to do it, but you can't look in it, man. It's not coming back.
100%. No, I agree. So just before we go here, there was one. I say this with complete apprehension that we've made it through COVID.
Yes, sir.
But at the same time, nobody really knows what's going to happen. But we were talking about this, just on the episode of Canada's podcast that we just did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What do you think entrepreneurs should have picked up on and hopefully implemented through the pandemic? Like, what were the biggest areas of opportunity? Because there's a lot of people complaining about how terrible it was. I don't see it that way. A lot of people do, but I don't. What do you think the biggest areas of opportunity were for people to, and what should people have initiated or started to do in their businesses as a result of the pandemic so that they won't collapse the next time something like this happens?
It's a great question. It really is. So the first thing is that it really was the Great Reset. It was the Great Reset from an entrepreneur's perspective because everybody was coming out of the gate at the same line. I don't care if you're big, medium, or small. Everybody was dealing with the same freaking unknown. And so innovation has been absolutely fantastic during this time period. And I'm talking purely business, and I feel for people that, feel for those parents who had kids that had to suffer through that crap for 2 freaking years and just on and on. Take your kids to school. Don't take your kids to school. Booster, no mask. And, but ultimately the lesson that's been learned from this, if your business doesn't have some revenue line associated with being virtual or being online, whatever you want to call it, you are going to lose for a couple of reasons. One is the world has gone a lot online, but the second thing is the consumer has embraced being online like no way, shape, or form before, and so they're not scared of it anymore. Mm-hmm. And convenience, freedom, flexibility, all those things.
Safety.
Safety. Like, dude, I mean, think about it. How long, I'm a little older than you, but I got to tell you, how long we've been talking about having a freaking doctor talk to you from a computer instead of going in and seeing them. Within 13 seconds after COVID hits, all of a sudden we can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
and so yes, safety, bang on. It's all that stuff. If your business is thinking, I'll have a Facebook page, and I'll go back to, my little restaurant. I've heard talk to restaurants that aren't opening up, and they're all staying takeout. They're not the cost, the infrastructure costs are too high for them to go back. So yeah, that's the big thing for me. Innovate, and ultimately I'm going to play the tough guy here. If you haven't gained from COVID, that's your freaking problem.
100%.
Because you hit it bang on, man. There's so many blessings that came out of that. But if you think it's going back to the way it was, forget it. Ain't happening. No. Get your head out of your butt. It's not happening.
Exactly.
It's a little rough on it, but that's how I feel. Yeah. It's a great opportunity. And for those that fall because they didn't pivot, they didn't innovate, that's your own problem. And by the way, I'm a big fan of the word pivot. I don't know why everybody gets hung up on the word pivot. I mean, the freaking MBA's been using the word pivot for years, and nobody has a problem with it. And everybody gets hung up with, we had to pivot in business. No, you got to pivot.
You have to.
Exactly. Yeah.
You got to be fluid. You have to be. Pivoting is, people associate pivoting with failure, but pivoting is just fluidity. It's totally it's the ability to have enough to be able to introspective nature to be able to say, we are doing something incorrectly. Let's move quickly.
Right. You're right on, brother. Absolutely. You got it, man. You got it.
I want to say this for people listening. I really appreciated the chat we had a couple weeks ago, because as entrepreneurs, we one thing that we do lack is people giving us a little bit of validity, and so it was nice to talk to you and for you to kind of to say what you're doing with the enterprise or businesses. It really is a great idea, because all the ideas are great in my head, and for the people who work for me are like, yeah, we'll do anything you want, boss. But it's nice to have people looking on the outside like, hey man, that is a really great idea. The reason I said that is because I've never really had a conversation with you that I didn't come out of feeling better or thinking that it was a great. It was very beneficial. So I want to give people the opportunity to understand the best way to connect with you. I know that you're doing business coaching, and I was reading the book that you published that's free on your website last night, and it's really great for small business owners. So what's the best way to connect with you if people want to start getting some of that positive vibe from you?
Thanks, Liam. There's two ways. One is my website is askrivers.com, and that book you're reading is about finding 10K in 45 minutes or less, and it is indeed there. So askrivers.com, and then my LinkedIn profile, which has all the goodies behind it. It's just I just use my website riverscorbett.ca, and that'll connect you to my my LinkedIn profile. Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity.
Oh, no problem. So both of those links will be in the podcast description, folks. So if you want to connect with Rivers, that's the easiest way to do it. Cool. And if you want to go to the Enterpriser conference that is going to be happening next April, you can put your name on the list now at www.enterpriser.ca. Rivers, thanks very much for joining us today. I sincerely appreciate it.
Of course, man. Anytime, Liam. You keep rocking and rolling.
All right. Bye-bye.